Welcome to the Science and Paranormal with Dr. Yana and Dr. Elliott, where science meets the unexpected, where we delve deep into the mysteries that straddle the line between scientific inquiry and paranormal. Get ready for a mind-altering journey as we embark on this phenomenal discovery together on United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM.
Good evening. I'm flying solo tonight. Dr. Yana was having some technical difficulties, so I will be your host tonight, Dr. Elliott Van Dusen. Tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit about New Year's Eve traditions, superstitions, and predictions. But first, I have to share some exciting news. The 2024 Halifax Paranormal Symposium, being held in Halifax, Nova Scotia on Saturday, October 12th, 2024, is well underway for planning. We have 4 out of the 5 guest speakers signed contracts, so we are hoping to make that announcement soon. And today we just launched our new sponsorship tier, so we will be looking for sponsors for the 2024 Halifax Paranormal Symposium. Quite a few different, companies sponsor us. We had The Outer Realm, who you may be familiar with Michelle DeRoche. And actually, that reminds me, I am actually recording live right now on the United Public Radio Network, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 and 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans, and also on Roku TV. So Michelle DeRoche was a sponsor last year with The Outer Realm. The X-Zone radio show was also a sponsor. Superstitious Times, for anyone that's listened to Brian Baker or read his work. We also had a bunch of local sponsors as well. Esther Fest, anyone familiar with the Great Amherst Mystery or the Esther Cox case from Amherst, Nova Scotia. We paired up with Esther Fest this year, got 2 free tickets to their paranormal conference, and also to a ghost hunt with Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation, which is the organization I'm the director for. So if anyone out there listening owns a business, works for a business, has an interest in the paranormal, and you think that they would make a good sponsor, have them come visit our website at ppri.net/sponsors. If you want to be a sponsor or you just want to make an individual contribution as well, we are this year doing an individual contribution through a nonprofit fundraising webpage called chuffed.org. So you can be an individual sponsor as well if you've got, if you want to give up your $20 coffee money for the month to help us put on, a very important and educational event up here in Canada, especially. We don't have many paranormal conferences in Canada like you guys do in the United States. I'm not quite sure the reason, like BC, British Columbia is very popular for Bigfoot sightings, UFO sightings. It has lake monsters, but there's not a ton of conferences that are held there. Ontario has a huge population here in Canada. And again, there hasn't been any big paranormal conferences there. So last year, the Halifax Paranormal Symposium was an inaugural event, and I brought in a couple of guest speakers from the United States. I had Dr. Richard Gallagher, who is a psychiatrist from Columbia University that believes in demonic possession. We had Lauren Coleman. He couldn't attend physically. He ended up having to appear by Skype or Zoom, but he did try to make it anyway. So yeah, I'm excited to announce who the guest speakers will be soon, and maybe even as early as next week on next week's show. But we are currently looking for sponsors. So anyone that's interested, please reach out. You can either email us at info@ppri.net, or, like I said, visit our website, ppri.net/sponsors. Other than that, I haven't really been up to much else paranormal work. I'm getting ready to teach a couple more courses for anyone that's looking for online paranormal courses. We have from the Parapsychological Education Center that Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation organizes and runs. We're going to be doing an Introduction to Demonology course for $99 Canadian. That is a 4-week course, and we will talk a little bit about ancient demonology. We will talk a little bit about mental health issues that mimic demonic possession, and I try and get guest speakers to come on as well. I was fortunate enough last class to have Archbishop Plato Angelicus, who was trained by the Vatican to do exorcisms, come on, and also Sister Kia Francis. They're part of the Mexican Catholic Church, not the Roman Catholic Church. So she's actually an exorcist as well. There's no restrictions like there would be with the Roman Catholics. So anyone interested in demonology, we have that course starting up January 22nd. It'll be a Monday. If you can't make the live lectures, don't worry. We record them and then post it later, and you can have all week to watch it and get ready for the next week. And then once that course finishes up on February 19th, will be the start date of our new course, 8-week course, Ghosts and Hauntings. And we'll talk all about ghosts and hauntings. Really, we'll talk about the history of ghosts, right back to ancient times, and lead you up to some case studies involving ghosts and hauntings, and some investigative techniques. And it should be really fun and really interesting. I've got people that have enrolled already. I see the enrollment email coming through, so we're pretty excited about that. And to find out more information about these online courses that myself and other members of PPRI will be teaching, you can go to ppri.net and click our education link, and then click the Parapsychological Education Center. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So tonight, Dr. Yana and I talking about New Year's Eve traditions, superstitions, predictions. Thought it would be kind of fun and interesting to kick off the new year. Hopefully everybody had a great holiday. I know I had a great Christmas. I also, had a good New Year's. Went over to the brother-in-law's house. They made me, for anyone that follows my social media or PPRI's social media, usually it's at PPRI INC, standing for PPRI Incorporated. Did a little bit of karaoke in Ghostbusters with my niece Summer. It wasn't the prettiest, but I made it through. So we had a great time. So normally what I do on New Year's Eve is it's not as big as Christmas. Even when I was a police officer, I used to volunteer to work New Year's Eve, because as you got more and more senior, you had the choice to either have Christmas off with your family or New Year's Eve. And New Year's Eve was never, that big. I wasn't a big party or anything like that, so I usually volunteered to work it. And of course, it was fun. Lots of drunks, lots of car accidents, lots of fights, stuff like that. So normally I don't do a whole lot for New Year's Eve. Usually, when I was a kid growing up, my mom would have a drop-in kind of party, and people just drop into the house, and there'd be all kinds of good food and good snacks. And that's kind of what we did this year, except it was at the brother-in-law's house, who's a member of PPRI as well. For those of you that may know Andrew Baird, he sometimes does lectures with me. He's our corporate secretary for PPRI. So we just went over to his house, had a great time, did some terrible karaoke singing, but it was fun. You guys, you can certainly let us know what your New Year's Eve tradition is. A lot of people, have them. And I was looking at some of the ones from around the world, and there was a couple that I found really interesting. over in Scotland and parts of England, there's a tradition called first footing, where the first person to enter into a home after midnight will bring either good or bad luck, depending on their characteristics that they have. They believe that it may have stemmed as far back as the Viking days, because the tradition goes, if it's a tall, dark-haired man, then it's going to be good luck, and if it's kind of a tall, blondish-haired man, then it's going to be bad luck. And they attributed that to the Vikings back in those days. So if you had a Viking knock on your door, it was usually not good, and trouble would ensue. So I thought that was interesting. Some smaller parts of the communities there also have a different part of the first footer tradition, where the person may have to leave through the back door and things like that. But I thought that was kind of an interesting tradition over there. In Spain and some Latin American countries, they eat 12 grapes at midnight, and the 12 grapes at the stroke of midnight is believed to bring good luck for each month in the new year, which I thought was really interesting. My daughter Meadow would have loved that one. She's absolutely hooked on grapes right now. An interesting one that I hadn't heard of, I've heard of colors being associated to good luck, but there are some cultures that wear specific color underwear on New Year's Eve, and it's thought to kind of influence your fortune for the new year. Red symbolizes love, yellow symbolizes wealth, green symbolizes good health. My wife was wearing black underwear, so we're trying to figure out, what did that mean about her. Unfortunately, there really wasn't much about black underwear. It said it's usually a fashion preference. It did say that in some cultures believe black represents protection from negative energy or absorption of destructive negative vibes. Interestingly enough, she had asked me for Christmas, one of her Christmas gifts she wanted was a necklace or some object to protect her when we go and do investigations. And I said, she's a bit of a critical investigator. She's not, she's a believer, but she's got a good mind and a good analytical mind. And I said, are you worried? And she said, yes, you're bringing me to all these crazy places and we're doing these investigations. And she said, I want something that protects me. So I did some research on that, and black onyx has been used since ancient times to ward off evil spirits, and is believed to have a lot of positive attributes about it. So for Christmas, I got her a black onyx pear-shaped necklace, and it's surrounded by white lab-created sapphire, because sapphire's my birthstone. So I thought that was really cool. It kind of had paranormal meaning to it, but also a personal meaning to it. And so we ended up doing that. But yeah, black underwear didn't really have anything cool about it. Kind of just fashion. The other color was blue for peace. Just looking at my notes, blue for peace, which is really interesting. I hadn't heard that one. Some of the cultures that participate in wearing specific colored underwear on New Year's Eve are Latin American countries, such as Spain, Brazil, Mexico, Latin America. They all follow that tradition. A lot of them wear yellow for luck or red for love. Brazilians wear colorful underwear, and that's believed to attract specific fortunes in the new year. And again, most popular colors are yellow and red. Italy wears red, but they also believe that it symbolizes not just love, but luck and fertility as well. And Venezuela apparently like to wear yellow underwear, which favors good luck and happiness. So I thought the color of underwear on New Year's Eve was a interesting tradition. Making noise, pretty much. Well, geez, I'm here in Canada, and on New Year's Eve there's going to be fireworks, there's going to be firecrackers, there's going to be those whistles and all that stuff. So apparently, some of the cultural history with making noise was that some cultures believe that it was done to scare away evil spirits, and kind of keep bad luck away during the the new year. And Canada, actually, I was surprised, Canada and the United States falls into that as well. It said that fireworks, loud parties, ringing bells are all common, in Canada, United States, and Europe. The noise is believed to ward off evil spirits and bad luck, and brings a fresh start to the new year. China and East Asian countries as well do firecrackers and fireworks during their traditional Chinese New Year celebrations. And that kind of comes from a legend that they have of a monster named Nyan. And loud noises are believed to scare away evil spirits. The Philippines also do a lot of firecrackers and horns. They bang pots and pans. And they believe that helps dispel misfortune and also ward off evil spirits. Same with the Latin American countries, countries like Mexico, Brazil, fireworks, music, parties, and some cultures there believe that it scares away bad spirits. It keeps bad luck away. Now, South Africa had an interesting New Year's Eve tradition. In Johannesburg and some other cities, they have a tradition of throwing old furniture out the window, which creates a bunch of racket and is done to kind of scare away evil spirits. However, I heard that the practice is discouraged for safety reasons. So you can imagine why. Thought that was, kind of an interesting New Year's Eve tradition or superstition. And the last one I kind of came across was cleaning the house. So in some cultures, cleaning the house before New Year's Eve is kind of seen as sweeping away the bad luck of the past year and preparing for a fresh start in your new year. And mostly, I wasn't surprised to hear this, but it's very popular in Japan, and I may mispronounce the Japanese word, but it's called usoiju, which literally means big cleaning. And so they thoroughly clean homes, schools, workplaces in late December, and they believe that it's preparing for the new year and welcoming ancestral spirits and gods. The Chinese and Chinese influenced cultures as well have a New Year's tradition of cleaning the house to sweep away any ill fortune and make way for positive intentions coming in for the new year. Iran actually does the same thing as well. I was really surprised about Iran with this, but they also do a lot of cleaning and believe in the same thing about getting that fresh start, warding off any negative energy that they might have come into contact with. Scotland, again, they, on top of the first voting, they also do the same thing about cleaning and preparing for the new year. And I was really surprised in Western cultures. Of course, like, we don't have that tradition. We have spring cleaning, which is usually done in January or February, and that can kind of be like a symbolic kind of clearing of our house, but usually it's for physical clutter and junk. But I guess symbolically it could be kind of the same as some of the other cultures, which I thought was really interesting. I remember growing up with some of these predictions as well. So every once in a while, you'd get this like newspaper article, or you'd hear something on the news about a prediction that was coming for the next year, and usually it was negative. But one of the first ones I remember was the big Y2K bug scare of December 31st, 1999. And when the clock was supposed to roll over to January 1st, 2000, everybody thought that all the computers in the world were going to crash. And this was due to a programming shortcut, and that the software didn't recognize that, it was going to be the year 2000. Everything was going to crash. And there was a lot of hype around this. They were selling programs to update your computer with, and kind of like, really, it was like software scam, really, because it didn't really help, and nothing really, negative happened. There was no, major failures, no power plants crashed, no nuclear power plants melted down. The software industry, was on top of it, doing updates to systems and, extensive checks and things like that, but nothing really happened. In fact, I remember going on the internet the next day to see what happened. I still had internet, so I was happy. And I believe there was a couple of ATM machines over in Europe that had crashed because the software on them was just so old. That was the worst that I could find. This one I don't remember because I was nowhere near to be born, but apparently in 1910, Halley's Comet had passed us, and Earth was passing through the tail of Halley's Comet, and it was predicted that this would bring very catastrophic consequences to Earth, that we would be poisoned by toxic gases that were in in this comet's tail, and of course that never happened. Now, the second one that I do remember was, remember everyone thought that, and even on TikTok now, you're still seeing videos talking about that the world ended in 2012. But there was the 2012 Mayan calendar prediction that obviously never came through. But it was that the world would end in 2012 because the Mayan calendar had stopped at 2012. And that gained significant worldwide attention, but ultimately was unfounded. Or, as some people on TikTok will have you believe, I guess we're just living in a simulation since the world ended in 2012. Whatever you believe. So those were some interesting ones, and then I was looking up to see what else was predicted for this year. So some media outlets are reporting that flying cars will be hitting the market in 2024. I know that there actually are companies working on flying cars. I saw a news article not too long ago talking about the flying car, how fast it can go, that you can also drive it as well, up to 55 kilometers, and then anything after that, you would start to initiate the flight mode, and you would fly. There are governments are working on laws and licensing issues with flying cars, so being worked on and coming. Whether they'll come in 2024 or not, I don't know, but that is one of the predictions for 2024. There's also been talk about big changes with governments for 2024. Apparently, there's a massive amount of people that can vote next year. Something like 4.5 billion people, so almost half of Earth. So might be some big government changes happening there. There's always economic predictions made as well. There was a talk about there being a crash in 2000 because of the Y2K kind of scare, and then also in 2020 as well, talking about there being a crash. And even though there was COVID, which hit us in 2020, and the market definitely fluctuated, there wasn't a crash per se, like during the Great Depression times. Natural disasters are another common prediction for New Year's Eve predictions. Certainly things like earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, climate issues like flooding and droughts. And there was a bunch of newspapers kind of talking about some drought and flooded areas increasing for 2024. So I guess we'll figure that out. They predict El Nino is expected to continue through spring. Percent likelihood, potentially leading to below average snowfall in North America and global food assistance needs. Million people. So they kind of make different, different predictions in different areas. Astronomy was interesting because NASA does plan to send a manned mission not to the moon, but around the moon in November. So that was on the common prediction for 2024 was space exploration. I believe it's a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket that will be taking the lunar lander near the moon, and that's supposed to happen in November. So that'll be really interesting. A socioeconomic prediction over in Europe was that people aged 65 or older will outnumber the youth in Europe. So an aging population, which is interesting because I just saw a tweet, or I guess an X, from Elon Musk earlier today, which was talking about one of the huge issues on Earth is the decline in population. Although I still find it hard to believe, because when I was watching X-Files, the world population was at 6 billion, and we're now at 8 billion. So that's 2 billion more people. But apparently places like China and India are seeing a decline in birth rates, and apparently it's not good. It's gonna be bad. But I mean, I don't know. The population of Earth seems to keep growing. So take that one for what you will. There are some really interesting predictions that were done by Nostradamus, who's well known for. He was a 16th century astrologer and a seer or soothsayer, and he's famous for kind of cryptic, predicted future events. And some people believe that he predicted the rise of Hitler and World War II, and his reference to Hitler, I believe the name had come to him as Hister, Hister. The French Revolution as well, his belief was that the French Revolution would occur, that there'd be turmoil and a fall of a king, and some people think that he predicted that. There was a Great Fire of London, known as the Great Fire of London in 1666, that they believe that he predicted, and some people believe that he also predicted the 11th attacks in the U.S. He does have some outstanding predictions that have not come to fruition yet. They may never come to fruition, or maybe 2024 will be the year. Global wars and conflicts. So he did predict future global conflicts or wars. Again, kind of general, just being critical. There's been wars fought forever, as long as men, and Homo sapiens have been around, probably even before then. I'm sure our ancestors, like the cavemen, were probably fighting over territory and women and resources. So that one's kind of vague. Certainly natural disasters. He still has some outstanding natural disaster predictions with earthquakes, tsunamis, natural disasters. It's actually interesting enough. I messaged Dr. Yana earlier this week because I saw on the news that San Diego was having a bunch of flooding from a tsunami, because Japan had that huge 7.5 magnitude earthquake there, and San Diego, where Dr. Yana works and lives, was actually flooding, and there was news footage of it. So I messaged her. She said she was okay, but there was some localized flooding. So certainly, earthquakes and tsunamis and even volcanic activity are quite common in Earth, but it's always seen as a prediction for a natural disaster, and it usually is brought up. It seems almost every year there's some sort of natural disaster that's going to occur. And then technological and societal changes. He kind of made some allusions that there's going to be, technological advances and some major societal shifts, but again, it's so vague. I prefer to have something that you can corroborate, and with something like that, I mean, you can't really corroborate it all. You can, like, for example, the technology advancement. Well, this year we saw a huge advancement with artificial intelligence. I used to do a lecture called Hauntings, Investigating Apparitions, Poltergeists, and Demons. And I used to show a photo of my niece and nephew, Colton and Annie. And the only thing that was real in that photo was them in the clothes that they were wearing. It was a picture of them sitting on a dock, and you could see the reflection in the water. And there was like this beautiful like field behind them, and none of that was real. The only thing that was real was the clothes that they were wearing, and they weren't even sitting on a dock. They were actually sitting on like studio chairs. But back then, the photographers could do some amazing things with the pictures. Well, now all that can be done in seconds with artificial intelligence. So certainly we've seen huge increases in technology and societal changes. I mean, holy smokes! I can't even begin to tell you the difference from when I was a kid to now. I'm seeing kids drop out of school earlier. Yeah, like I can go into the women's bathroom if I want to now. Most places have unisex bathrooms now. Justin Trudeau, our prime minister, just put tampons in all washroom federal buildings, including men's washrooms. So, if I need a tampon for something, it's there. It's free. So, societal changes, I don't know what they're waiting for. If this is the most radical I've seen society since I've been around in the last 40 years. So I don't know why no one's claiming that Nostradamus' prediction has come true. And if this isn't it, then God only knows what 2024 is going to bring us. But no, it's very, very interesting. And there's like some crazy predictions out there as well. For example, I read one. It said that Prince Harry will become king in 2024, and I have no idea like where these people that are getting these predictions are coming from. I don't know if some of it's just misinformation and they're making it up. I don't know if they had a vision of this, but yeah, that was one prediction I read saying that Prince Harry was going to become king in 2024. Some people were predicting a new pope for 2024. I saw that some people predict that there will be a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia for 2024. But again, these are all vague. It could happen for sure, but it also might not happen. And I mean, obviously, if it doesn't happen, then their prediction was wrong. But they're such kind of simple and vague predictions that it could possibly happen, and it's nothing paranormal. It's just chance. It's just good political negotiation. So really, really fascinating. I'd love to hear if you guys have any New Year's Eve traditions. So if you're watching on YouTube or anything like that, and you have access to our chat, let me know if you guys have any traditions or predictions or anything like that. Another common New Year's Eve tradition is to come up with a resolution, and I have done New Year's resolutions before in the past. Um, a big one is lose weight, of course, and I'm not talking about like paying, $150 gym membership and not going, and you see all the memes about that, gym owners getting rich in January and then by February, and don't don't get me wrong, when I did actually used to go to a gym, they would get busy in January. Like all of a sudden, it would be completely packed, and you'd have to wait to use the weights, the machines, and then of course by February 1st, it was back to normal. Most people dropped off and realized it's a lot of work. But I have done New Year's Eve resolutions for weight loss and have actually stuck to it. I think I've gone from fat to fit now, I want to say 5 times. And I tell myself every time that I'm not going to get fat again. And then I continue to just eat stuff that's not good for me. Um, but I didn't have a resolution this year. If I had any resolution for this year, I think it was just that, the world is so negative, the news is so negative, politics is so negative. There's a lot of negative things happening in my country, Canada, as I'm sure there is in other countries. Our current government is brutal, and some of the changes that they're making for people. Never seen so many homeless people like in my area, and there's baseball fields with people living in tents in them and stuff now. And the city, there was an article just in the paper the other day that the city of Halifax is putting down generators by these encampments so that people can like tap into it and use some electricity. And it's crazy. I've never seen it as bad, and I've had some people try and argue with me saying that, oh yeah, it's nothing different, it's just getting publicized and stuff. Well, no, I've never seen like a baseball field in my home community that's been a baseball field for ever now be used to house tents and homeless people. And I know that I'm a veteran myself. I'm a Royal Canadian Mounted Police veteran, which falls Veterans Canada. And I saw a video of I think it was our shadow minister of Vets Affairs asking a nonprofit organization if it was true that there's currently, Canadian military personnel sleeping in their car because they can't afford rent, and then putting their uniform on and going to work. And she said, yes, that it's true. So certainly a lot of negative stuff. So I kind of just had the idea to, try not to let any of that stuff that I can't control affect me this year, and just try and focus on some personal goals. So I never really set like a resolution, but my wife and I have some personal goals. We want to take a nice vacation, either in the spring or maybe the fall, depending on when she can get time off work. I want to have a successful 2024 Halifax Paranormal Symposium. It's our second one. So it means, a lot to me to work hard all year to get that ready and put on a good, entertaining but educational show for whoever can attend. We said we want to pay off some debt. We have a couple of heat pumps that we're still paying for, and a couch that we bought with the don't pay any interest for a year. So we got to get it paid off by September so we don't get dinged with the interest. So, just some simple goals. And my goal is to just kind of enjoy 2024 as best as possible. And, I had a good Christmas with family, and enjoyed my New Year's Eve, and just kind of went into the new year seeing what happens this year. I didn't set any crazy resolutions, but I love listening to other people's resolutions, and I love seeing if they've come true, and like I said, I have had them before and stuck with them and had success. In fact, for the last 5 months, my wife and I have been doing the keto diet, and I've got a lot of injuries from policing. So my knees have osteoarthritis in them, and I had a partially torn MCL in one. I've got bad back. I've got lumbar disc disease, cervical disc disease, all from police having the heavy vest on and the heavy duty belt on and sitting in the car, not ergonomically correct. You're kind of sideways typing and getting in fights and injured and things like that. So working out is difficult for me now. So luckily the keto diet has worked very well for me, and also on Ozempic as well. So I can't say it's all keto, but a mix between keto and Ozempic, and I'm down 48 pounds, feeling a lot better. I think I'm sitting at 204. I want to hit 190. So that's kind of I guess another New Year's goal for me is, drop that last 12 pounds, but I'm definitely a lot healthier and feeling a lot better. So it's good. But that was it. When I was looking for, any sort of 2024 predictions, there really wasn't anything too crazy. It's more about kind of your natural disasters, predictions for, some more droughts and more flooding, and just very generic stuff. There was nothing, kind of crazy. So, hi, Doctor. See you on the chat there. Did you have any New Year's resolutions, or did you do you have any sort of New Year's traditions? Yeah, it's really interesting. You used to get mediums, like popular mediums, post their thoughts and beliefs, as well. But it's been, like I said, pretty kind of tame. I didn't see anything too crazy. It was just talking about technology. Some people look at the Nostradamus writings as well, and say that World War III we're still waiting for. They believe he predicted World War III, talking about either a major cyber attack happening or South China Sea. Obviously, Nostradamus wouldn't have known about cyber attacks back then, but that's what people do. They take the writing and they kind of put some interpretation into it. There's always talk about a new pandemic. Some people think that he predicted the COVID pandemic, but some people also say that there could possibly be viruses entombed in Antarctic ice that will get released because of global warming, and that may affect us. I actually saw a TikTok about that there the other day, but it wasn't about kind of like any sort of conspiracy or predictions. It was actually people drinking glacial water, and the guy was just kind of warning people, like, you should kind of know what you're drinking and be careful, because he kind of mentioned the same thing, that there's could be some viruses frozen in the Antarctic ice, and if it's melting and you're drinking stuff, you might get really sick if there's something in there that we don't know about. So he was just basically urging people to know where their water's coming from. I like, again, I think the strangest one was Prince Harry becoming king, because right now we have Charles as king, and then next in line is what's his name? His brother. I'm kind of like on Team Harry's side. I think Harry's kind of more down to earth. Whatever his brother's name is, I can't even think. William. William and his kind of bloodline are next in line. So, not sure how accurate that is. I mean, yeah, that I can't say what I want to say. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying that. Another interesting one though was alien contact, but a lot of people say that as well. That this is going to be the year for disclosure, and then we have a couple of meetings, and all of a sudden, that's it. You don't hear anything more. And I was really surprised. I think Dr. Yana and I talked about this a couple episodes ago, but that hasn't been much more update on the aliens that were allegedly found in Peru. I heard that they had done DNA tests, and there was like 30% DNA that they couldn't account for, and this should be like worldwide news. And we were talking about fatigue. Everyone's fatigued from COVID, and then the lockdowns, and getting the vaccinations, and the current state of government, and the current state of the economy, and taxes. That everyone's just so tired and so exhausted and so kind of beat down that there was all kinds of jokes going around that the government just admitted that there's extraterrestrials and nobody cares. Which is not all quite true. The government hasn't admitted that there's extraterrestrials. One intelligence officer who hasn't witnessed the extraterrestrials himself, but has been told by many high-ranking individuals within the United States government that extraterrestrials exist. So they haven't really admitted that they exist, but has been discussed. Will we make contact with aliens in 2024? I don't know. I'm doubtful of that. It's interesting. I watched an old documentary a couple months ago. Stanton T. Friedman was in it. He was a nuclear physicist from, lives in New Brunswick, Canada. And I got to know him when I was just starting out in the paranormal. I've been investigating the paranormal since 1997. And I used to converse with Stanton on email, and got to meet him at UFO conferences that he would go to. And after I joined the RCMP, and because I was a big fan of the X-Files and I was investigating the paranormal, he used to call me Fox Mulder. And anytime he'd write me an email, I would say like Fox or Fox Mulder. So it was kind of cool. And he was talking about, they asked him that question, like how come aliens haven't come down and talked to us? And he said something that was so true. He said, would you come down and talk to us? Look at how hostile we are. And if you think about it, like Andrew Baird with my organization, he used to be an aerospace officer for the Canadian military, so an air traffic controller, and scramble jets to intercept these objects that would come into the sky. We've seen, like for example, like when the U.S. is over doing exercises, as they say, with South Korea, and they get buzzed by a Russian jet or a Chinese jet, they talk about how hostile it was, but yet the Americans do the same thing with UFOs. They dispatch, fighter jets, and they try and get close enough to them that it would be considered what they consider, hostile. And then, of course, if you believe what's been told to us about from David Grush, that some UFOs have been recovered, some have been shot down, some have been retrieved after they've been shot down. It kind of makes sense that they would want to come to Earth and observe us, but not necessarily interact with us, because we like to blow things up. And it would be kind of interesting if I'm a big kind of a space nerd, so I was reading about the kind of micro satellites that they want to launch to Alpha Centauri, and they can get them to go as fast. They predict they can get them to go as fast as 20% the speed of light. So it would take 20 years to get to Alpha Centauri. And what they would do is build these micro satellites and zap them with lasers, and it would send them about 20% the speed of light, which is so much faster than, if we were to send a probe there. But it would be interesting, if we found a planet with intelligent life, and they had similar, things like we do, like fighter jets, or maybe they got UFOs with, missiles and guns and stuff like that on it. If we sent like this probe into their atmosphere, we're like recording, oh, look at this beautiful land, and then all of a sudden, like, it just goes disconnect because they blew it up, and they wonder why UFOs and aliens don't just want to make themselves appear here. Stanton said it himself that humans are pretty hostile. So that makes sense. So I don't know if that one will happen. It would be very cool. We made alien contact in 2024, but again, that's some of these predictions are just kind of, like I said, they could happen or they might not happen. But they are fun to read, especially the ones that I like the kind. I know it's so negative, but I like the kind of the end of the world ones, and waiting, because the world was supposed to end so many times, and it hasn't. So that's interesting. Actually, speaking of end of the world, I know some predictions before that I've read was about that this is going to be the year of the second coming of Christ, because the dragon's only supposed to be locked up for 2,000 years, and we're now in the year 2024. It's got to be this year, and all that stuff. But again, that has not obviously come to fruition either. So all kinds of different and strange predictions. But I'm just trying to think of any other kind of traditions that people have for New Year's Eve. Like one year I did something a little crazy. I was thinking about taking my wife to New York City for New Year's Eve, because that's the New Year's Eve city, live from Times Square. But the cost to stay downtown Manhattan at the time was crazy. The flights were crazy. So instead, it was last year, we went to Boston instead. And I took her to a Boston Bruins game, which is both our favorite hockey teams. She had never seen the Boston Bruins play at TD Garden, so we went there and had a blast. And then for New Year's Eve, we just kind of went out for dinner, and then hung around Boston and the hotels. So that was kind of cool. But I know, other people get together and play board games with friends and family. Other people like to go partying. There are adult New Year's Eve parties. Tons of house parties around here in Nova Scotia. Or kitchen parties, as they call them. Those are, some pretty big ones. A lot of people get Chinese food here, or pizza. Seems to be popular as well for Chinese. I have done that with my family before, and it was really good. But I got turned off one year, because one year we did actually order Chinese food from our favorite restaurant, and it was normally awesome food. And they only take so many orders on New Year's Eve, and they close at 8:00. And you had to put your pre-order in, and you had a certain time that it would be ready, and you had to go pick it up. And I remember that year I went, it was like 4:00. I went, it was not ready. And they told me it was going to be like another 2 hours. So I went back home and called them before I left. They said it was going to be ready in like another half hour. So I said, okay, good thing I called. So then I went back down, got it, brought it home. We had two of our friends over, so it was me, my wife, and two friends. We're absolutely starving. We've been waiting for this Chinese food for hours. It was 2.5 hours late, probably more like 3 by the time I got home, or 3 or 4 hours maybe, with all the driving back and forth. Bragging about how good this Chinese food was. Crack it open, and it was terrible. It was almost. You think that you would think two things, like where they're mass producing it, it would be so fresh. But it was actually like it's almost like the rice didn't taste like they had enough soy sauce in it like they normally do, and it was just awful. Um, so I've been terrified. That was a couple years ago now. That was probably 3 or 4 years ago now. So I'm absolutely terrified to order Chinese food on New Year's Eve. I think if you're going to do it either after or before. Another common thing around here, anyway, in Nova Scotia for New Year's Eve tradition is to have lobster. Order lobster and have some friends over and do a big lobster boil. And just wanted to let you know we're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and also on Roku TV. Riding solo tonight, just Dr. Elliott here. We don't have Dr. Yana. She had some technical difficulties, so I'm holding down the fort tonight with you guys. Yeah, that's really all I could come up with for kind of predictions and stuff like that this year. There wasn't anything crazy, but I think 2024 is going to be a good year for my organization anyway, Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation. Like I said, we've got 2 online courses starting. We've got the Introduction to Demonology starting on January 22nd, and that's a 4-week course. And I talk a little bit about ancient demonology and mental illness and how it mirrors, how it can mirror demonic possession in some cases. And then in February, on the 19th, I have a new ghosts and hauntings course. These are all taught online. Again, very flexible. We do a live lecture once a week. It's recorded through Zoom, and then it's uploaded to the course Moodle afterwards. And I can't remember if I said the price of the ghost and haunting course. It's 150 Canadian, and the Introduction to Demonology course is $99 Canadian. And all that tuition money goes into the nonprofit organization Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation. And we use that to purchase new equipment, whether it's office equipment or ghost hunting equipment, although there's no such equipment that can detect ghosts, for those of you that follow my work. But tools to help you while you're investigating. And obviously any funds that don't go towards operations or administrative costs, we put back into the Halifax Paranormal Symposium. So each year we hope to make it better. Last year I was hoping to do, gift bags, for example. But unfortunately, by the time all the guest speakers were booked and we financed, the room rentals and all that stuff, we didn't have enough money to have gift bags for people. So this year we're asking sponsors if there's anything that they want to donate as well as an in-kind donation, so that we can put it into a gift bag. So anyone that's out there listening, if I don't know if your company has like a bunch of pens or something like that, or even a bunch of pads of paper to make notes with that you guys just have in a stock room, and whatever you want to get rid of it, hey, we'll take it. And we'll put it, in the gift bag. And then that way, while the lecturers are giving their lecture, if anyone wants to make any notes, they've got a pen and a piece of paper to write on. Anything like that is useful to us. Like I said, also, if you go to ppri.net/sponsors, we talk about the different sponsorship tiers that we came up with this year. And we're also accepting this year individual contributions. So Dr. Yana, actually, God bless her soul, she donated $200 to the Halifax Paranormal Symposium. And, we were really happy for that. That helped kind of kick off our campaign. A friend of mine, Lydia McIsaac, who's a realtor, donated $50 as well. So we do have some individual contributions coming through to assist us as well, because we want to put on the best event for you guys. We want to try and attract the, best guest speakers. And I'm excited to announce some of those to you guys soon. Like I said, I'm just waiting for one contract to come back, and then we can announce the guest speakers. But yeah, you can go to ppri.net/sponsors if you know anyone or you have anything that you want to donate to us. Yeah, hit us up. Other than that, the other big thing that we do kind of have in the works is on the military base in Halifax on Stadacona. There is what used to be an old hospital, but it is now kind of a museum, and it's supposed to be very, very haunted. I guess a lot of people died from tuberculosis and things like that way back in the day when the base was first in operation. They used to have servants for the admirals, I guess, because it's a naval base. And apparently one of them fell down the stairs and broke their neck, and it's supposed to be haunted. So one of my members, Pierre Filotro, is a retired member of the Royal Canadian Navy. So we have myself, retired Royal Canadian Police Officer. We have Andrew Baird, who was retired Royal Canadian Air Force. And we also have Pierre Filotro, who's a retired Royal Canadian Navy officer. So it's kind of cool. We kind of have a very diverse paranormal investigative team. But he might be able to get us access to that location this year. So it's a very, very big museum, a couple levels. Probably going to take our whole team to do it. So I'm going to try and see if I can set something up. I think, from what I'm told, I think this could be a promising location. Our last investigation that we did was a private residence up in Halifax, and we didn't get anything there. But the one before that was really interesting. We did a private residence in East Hants, Nova Scotia, and what was happening is these items were materializing on the homeowners out of nowhere, and they were just be regular like household items. There was like a hairbrush, a stick of deodorant. The strange thing about this was, though, is that they were appearing kind of symmetrical. They were not like knocked over. They were like neatly stood up. There were CDs in cases that would appear, and they were like very organized. Very, very strange. I kind of doubted it at first. I thought maybe it could possibly be fraud, or somebody could be frauding the homeowners or setting them up, pranking them. Reached out to a panel of experts that I sit on a board with, and learned something new. Apparently, there are some dogs that can symmetrically stack certain items, such as books, and expert that sits on this paranormal expert board, and they were telling us about that. But when we sent them the photographs of the case, they said, "Oh, geez, yeah, no, there's some items there that the dog wouldn't be able to, kind of set up like that." So that kind of ruled that out. But it was good to know in future cases, if you've got, magazines or books or something like that a dog can move around. It's good to kind of keep that in the mind, that your dog might be the suspect. It might not necessarily be a ghost. So I thought that was really cool. Learned something new on that. We went to the house, didn't witness anything paranormal ourselves, but we brought along our medium, Jody. And it was our first investigation with her. Didn't give her any details at all. We said, just show up at this house at this time and this location. That was it. So she showed up, and she felt, as soon as she got out of the car, she felt a pain in her chest, and her left arm was numb, and she felt like she was taking like a heart attack. And
what had happened is the homeowners suspected that the person playing the prank on them was possibly the husband's deceased father. So the deceased father had passed away in the early 90s from a massive heart attack while he was on vacation. And they thought that it was his dad kind of setting up like these items and causing mischief at the house. So that was interesting. And then when she was in the garage, and she didn't know any of that information, obviously. When she was in the garage, she felt that in the back corner of the garage, there was something there that belonged to the male energy that she was feeling. And so she went over and she was looking for items. And she said, picked this one item up and said, it's this tape measure. And we checked with the homeowner outside of the medium's, hearing and presence. And it turns out that the tape measure she had picked up did belong to his father. And then she came in the house and she said she was having trouble kind of standing on her left leg and that it felt like she was on the ocean and she was kind of wobbly. And we found out that the husband's mother had passed away January of last year. And she had her left leg amputated because of circulation issues. Well, that was interesting. Then there was a deck of cards that the homeowner filled us in on, saying that about a week before we showed up there, she was playing cards with the neighbor's son. They got up at one point to get a drink, and when they came back, the wife realized she was missing a card, and it was the 7 of spades. So they looked everywhere for the card, couldn't find it. Searched everywhere underneath the deck and never showed up. So we give Jody, our medium, the stack of cards, and we said, is there any card that kind of stands out to you? And she said, I keep seeing the 6 and the 8 of spades. And it was the 7 of spades that was missing. So she was able to, and what they call that is, that phenomena is psi missing. So it's where they don't hit on the right one, but they kind of hit in between. And that's what she did. She, pretty much got right in between there. And the last one was, I didn't even know the husband's, excuse me, the husband's dad's name. And so towards the end, we started to do a seance. And during the seance, Jody was trying to get the dad's name. And she said, I'm hearing a puh, puh, puh sound. And she said, is it Peter? And he said, no. Peter was his dad's friend, though. And then she picked up the tape measure and asked the spirit again what his name was. And then she said, he says his name's Paul. And it turned out to be correct. And I didn't even know that because I didn't interview the husband. One of my investigators did. So, although we did not witness anything paranormal happen physically, very subjectively, there was a lot of paranormal evidence in that case. So that was a really good case for us last year. That was definitely our most fascinating one. The only other investigation we did was kind of for fun. It was a public ghost hunt, and that was during Esterfest. I did the Cumberland County Museum. For the most part, nothing happened. There was a lot of people there. It was anything but a scientific investigation for sure. People there. I think there was 20 people plus myself and another investigator and one staff member. So just way too many people for a scientific investigation. But there was a crazy
blip on the EMF reader. It had gone up to around 160, I believe, where there was no live wires or any sort of reason why that should happen. Again, it was just like a one-time anomaly, so could have been user error, not sure. Some people reported cold spots. There really was a cold spot downstairs because I was interested. The heat pump upstairs was producing heat, but the heat pump downstairs was producing cold. So there was one room, it was a miner's display room, which was absolutely freezing, but it's because the air conditioning was on for the heat pump. And then the only thing that was interesting that I witnessed was we were upstairs, and there was one room where a few of the attendees said that they really did not like. They felt it was like a negative room or a negative feeling. And we were in there, and I was just about to play a prank on them. I was going to turn the lights out really quick and then turn them back on. And I no sooner did that, and all of a sudden the metal shelf that was in there kind of like shook really, really violently. Just like really quick once. It was just like almost like somebody had tugged it. But there was multiple witnesses there that said nobody had touched it. And we heard something hit the floor, and it sounded like it was metal. So, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And looking around and, trying to examine everything, see what happened. I noticed that there was like almost some fresh drywall ripped from the wall. So I said, it looks like this shelf might have been bolted to the wall. So I think we're looking for like a bolt or a screw or something. So I got down on my hands and knees. I'm like looking around, and sure enough, we did find the screw. And the staff was supposed to check the video surveillance and get back to us, but haven't heard anything back yet on that. But that was kind of the only interesting thing that happened there. It was one of those locations where you couldn't say it was haunted, couldn't say it wasn't haunted, but was interesting enough that, I would go back for sure. And they did offer us to come back if we want to do it. So you never know. We may actually take them up on that. Other than that, we don't have any investigations scheduled this year. Like I said, we might be doing the Naval Museum, which sounds promising. Other than that, I'm working on my fourth book. For those that don't follow my work, I should say, my first book was about an investigation I did in Exeter, Rhode Island, and it was called Evil in Exeter. It was a private residence where something really nasty was haunting this family. I saw doors open and close on their own, lock and unlock on their own. Had strange things happen, like electronics be manipulated. Saw aversion to religious objects from one of the children. Scratching and strange noises coming from the room, but the adults, we couldn't see or hear anything or find anything. Fairly new house at the time. I think it was maybe 9 years old. Subdivision didn't really have any crazy history. So anyway, it was quite the investigation. It's funny. Sometimes I fight the science mindset, and I want to say that it was just like a really nasty entity, because in parapsychology, what we believe is that when you die, your human consciousness and your personality somehow survive. And Dr. Sam Perina, who specializes in near-death experiences, I watched an interview with him, and he said that scientifically, as a medical doctor, he can say that human consciousness exists for at least 2 hours after death. He is not sure what happens after that. It would all be speculation on his part. But he said, scientifically, as a medical doctor, I can stand up and say that human consciousness does exist after death for at least 2 hours. So the scientific part of me wants to say that, the entity that I was investigating down there in Exeter was just like a really nasty spirit. Because if you were, a kind person in real life, or in the physical world, I should say, and you die, you're probably going to be that same kind of person. Like, you're not going to change drastically. And same thing if you're not a nice person, you're gonna leopard doesn't change their spots. You're going to be the same person you are in the afterlife as you were in the physical world. So part of me thinks that it was just like a really nasty, person. Then my interest in demonology kind of clouds my mind too. And when I look at some of the phenomena that occurred, some things would happen in threes, the aversion to the religious objects, smoke detectors that were going off at 1:30 in the morning for no reason would only turn off when splashed with holy water. The statue of the Virgin Mary um, was knocked over on the armoire. The little boy drew a picture of a stick figure swirled in blue swirls. And when his mother asked him what that was, he said that it was a little boy that talks to him and likes to play in the fire in his toy room. And that same day, she had a strange message appear on her phone that said, "Hey." I don't want to say it because my phone, but ASIRI, Malik, dirty girl. And then the response, you could be anything. And so when we would test it out on the iPhones, the proper response at the time with that iOS software should have been, I just don't understand this gender thing. And Apple had no explanation for why the response on the original phone said, "In my realm, you can be anything," whereas the iOS software was programmed to say something else. And when we did some, Malik was a demon in the Quran, or jinn, as they call him, and that the homeowner had actually been to a medium before, or had a medium talk to her before. That obviously came from like an Islamic background, because he had told her that she had a bad jinn attached to her. So there was just all these different things that when you couple them together and look at the totality of the situation, as somebody that um, believes in demons, or the possibility of demons, um, can't rule that out either. So it's funny, that case there, I always fight over internally. But it was definitely something evil, one way or the other. And there was a quote in there from Father Bob Bailey, who used to do exorcism work. He was the family priest, and we had tried to contact him to do an exorcism on the house, but unfortunately, he wasn't doing deliverance work at the time. But he said, whether it's a damned soul or a demon, they're both creatures of hell, and treat them the same way. I thought that was really interesting, like really powerful to actually hear, a Roman Catholic priest say that to somebody, because he said it with conviction and absolute belief, and not like, oh yeah, demons might exist. It was, no, these things exist, and even if it's not a demon and it's a damn soul, you treat it like a demon anyway. Thought that was really powerful, so ended up writing a book on it. Then my other two books, my mother actually wanted me to write another book, and I said, well, these types of cases don't come along every day. What am I going to write about? And I kind of thought of my two passions, working in law enforcement and parapsychology. So what I started to do was reach out to some coworkers of mine that I worked with, and asked if they had any paranormal experiences. And I started with some correctional officer friends of mine, and sheriffs and security guards. And next thing I know, I had collected over 50 stories from law enforcement with their true paranormal accounts. So I called it Supernatural Encounters, True Paranormal Accounts from Law Enforcement.
And then after that came out, I started doing a bunch of podcasts and interviews, and more law enforcement people contacted me, and they shared more stories, and I had like 50 more stories. So I ended up putting in another book. But for the last year or so, my next book, my fourth book, which is called Hauntings and Homicides. And we're going to take a look at some sites where murders have occurred. Now, hauntings are reported. And I always try and stick a little bit of parapsychological education into my books as well. So I try and, give like some layman explanation on, what a residual haunting is, which is, the belief that some people call it the stone tape theory, or psychic energy imprint into the environment, where something really tragic like a murder has happened and the energy's captured in the environment, and certain environmental conditions happen where it just replays over and over again, almost like a video recording, but it's not an intelligent apparition. So if you were to see the apparition that was murdered in a residual haunting, they wouldn't talk to you or wouldn't even recognize that you're there. So I try and throw that in the books as well, because education in the paranormals is really important to me and to my organization, Paranormal Phenomena Research Investigation. Our three objectives actually are investigation, research, and education. So I always try and throw a little bit of knowledge into the books as well. And for anyone that is interested in those books, I actually got a cool text over Christmas. Somebody had sent me a picture of my second book, saying that they had received it for Christmas. And of course, I usually leave my email in there and the PPRI website. So they tracked me down on Facebook and sent me a nice message saying that they had got my book for Christmas. So that was kind of cool. But the easiest, fastest, cheapest way to get it is off Amazon. It is on the Barnes & Noble website if you're in the United States, and it's also on Chapters Cole's Indigo websites up here in Canada. But I find Amazon is, pretty much the fastest way to just order it, and if you got Prime, free shipping. We did kind of open up our own store on PPRI as well to help generate some more funds for our nonprofit organization. So if you want a personalized signed copy of any of those books, certainly go to the website, ppri.net, send me an email, and I can get that shipped off to you, personally signed to you or somebody else if you want, as a gift. We try and do, like I said, all kinds of different fundraising activities throughout the year, because we are a nonprofit organization that does our investigations for free, puts on I do some free educational lectures at public libraries and things like that. And now with the launch of our Parapsychological Education Center online, like I said, all the tuition that students pay goes towards our nonprofit organization for funding our operations and putting on other bigger events like the Halifax Paranormal Symposium. But we're starting to wind down right now. I don't see any questions that have come in on our chats or anything like that. Dr. Yana and I will be interviewing in part 2 Dr. Dillard, Joseph Dillard. We got to speak to him last week. The episode hasn't aired yet, but very, very fascinating individual that studies dreams and dream interpretation. And what we're going to do is, for the second episode, I'm going to give him a dream that I've had. I've got a couple. I just haven't decided 100% which one I'm going to share with him yet. And he's going to kind of dissect it, but it should be really interesting. But his work was really fascinating, talking about basically analyzing and interpreting that and treating them like characters. And I didn't get to ask him many questions. My colleague, Dr. Yana, was all over him with questions. So I didn't even really have to say a whole lot there that episode.
next week I'll probably ask him. But I believe he was talking about lucid dreaming, because he was talking about trying to interact with the character in your dream, ask some questions, and see what responses they give. And then, of course, it's important when you wake up to write this down. Try and keep a journal next to your bed, because we seem to quickly forget our dreams. It's funny, when I was younger, if I had like a crazy dream, I'm a lucid dreamer myself. I can kind of control my dream to an extent, and I can kind of make it go places. And but I usually always remembered them, and now I find that they dissipate so fast. I don't know if it's old age, or I do find now that unless I share the dream right away, and that's why they tell you now to write it as soon as you wake up. I find that it does kind of slip your mind a lot. That'll be really cool and interesting. Another guest that we have coming on the show in a couple weeks, I believe it will be our Tuesday, January 30th episode. It's going to be my friend Chris Stiles. He's going to come on and talk about UFOs. He's going to talk about his book that came out last year now, because it's 2024, called Clear Sweep 5, which talks about a little bit. He'll probably cover the Shag Harbor UFO crash, but what Clear Sweep 5 is he actually kind of was a bulldog and kind of came onto that second story that spun off of Shag Harbor, which we always hear that the UFO disappeared underwater, Yarmouth, and went up to Shelburne, and a second UFO came down and kind of helped correct the damage that was done to it, and then they flew off. And what Chris was able to determine is that the Shelburne UFO incident and the Shag Harbor UFO incident were two different incidents. The Shag Harbor one happened in 1967. The Shelburne one happened in 1960, so 7 years before Shag Harbor. So he'll be really, really interesting to talk to. So got some some fascinating episodes coming up. Gotta throw out that typical saying that if you guys are enjoying our show, please support us by liking, following, subscribing, sharing, or commenting on your favorite listening or viewing platform. And that doesn't cost you anything. I know I was talking about looking for sponsors and people donating to the Halifax Paranormal Symposium. This doesn't cost you anything except for a few seconds of your time, just to give us a like, a follow, subscribe, share, comment. And that just kind of gives us an idea of our engagement. We're open to discussing some topics that you guys have as well or want to know about, because the show is Science and the Paranormal. So we do talk about science, we do talk about the paranormal. So if there is something that you would like to talk to, let us know, and we'll set it up. Other than that, I don't think that's it, guys. I think that's all my announcements. We do have an email, so if you do have any questions for Dr. Yana or I, you can send it to scienceandtheparanormal@ppri.net. And we also have a website, so you can visit that at www.scienceandparanormalpodcast.com. And again, if you go to ppri.net, that's my nonprofit paranormal organization. There's a contact us page that you can send an email to, and it will eventually come to me. So you can certainly do that as well. And that's about it. So I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and had fun for New Year's. And hopefully you'll tune in to us next week. And we'll have another episode. Hopefully Dr. Yana's back, and I won't just be talking to you guys for an hour and a half straight. But it was fun. Enjoyed We had one comment tonight. That was it. So I don't know if it's just a quiet night out there or what. But anyway, appreciate all our listeners. You guys take care. And we'll see you again next week. Take care.